Now, forgive me, I actually ran 35 kilometers today and my knees are really, really sore. But we are not going to skip out on day 21 of 30 of trying to teach my mum one new knee exercise. Today, we have the difference between drop jumps and depth jumps. Looking sketchy as hell. I just have a bin here, but that'll do for me. Hopefully you have a step at home. This is a drop jump and this is a depth jump. This is the drop. All right. I hate doing this, it's so sketch. So I'm standing on my bed and the drop jump is basically taking a step forward and you're basically tapping on the leg and then jumping up. The drop jump is basically just trying to absorb force into a little pogo jump. Depth jumps are a bit different. So in the same way you are stepping off and you're landing in squat position to jump up as high as you can. That is a depth jump. So drop jumps where you're just going down, drop and bang, coming up. Depth jumps is you absorb the full shock. When you absorb it, you're standing up just like so. Take a step out, fully come into a squat position, and you're coming up for a vertical max jump. My 2 cents is if you're struggling with knee pain, definitely start off with the depth jump. So you're going into a full hip hinge movement, coming down into a squat, landing knees before toes, hips, and then springing up for like a max jump before you go into your drop jumps. Drop jumps, as you progressively go into a less of a hip hinge movement and just landing with your ankles and knees and coming up, this can be a high level movement when you start getting into more powerful hops after your drop jump. So that hop that succeeds landing, when you start getting better at training your ankles into like a max vert, that is difficult. I'm just going to do it from here. But imagine if you come into a drop jump and you're coming into inner range, you're trying to suppress all that ground reaction force into what little inner range you have, which means all that force is being attenuated by your knees. When you go from a depth jump into a full drop, you're able to use your knees and your hips to absorb the ground reaction force, springing up into a vertical max jump, and that's going to make it a lot easier on your knees. I'm not saying when you go into sports, you're accentuating every single knee movement until you can, take corners or like spring out into a different direction. But for the sake of knee pain, depth jumps and using your whole lower limbs to absorb every single force before you go into a max vert is going to be easier than just drop jumps and trying to use your feet, use your ankles and calves only to spring off into your next step. Your knee flexion continues to stay in a range, which means a lot of the load is going to be focused on your calves. Sometimes if you're not warmed enough, that can cause some sort of damage. If not, if you're coming into a drop jump and your knees are way past your feet, that's going to incur some knee pain. Give it a go. Start off with maybe like a 15 centimeter step. It's going to feel super boring, super silly. You're going to feel like, why am I just dropping and landing and it's causing me a lot of ground reaction force? That is the very point, to soften the ground reaction force so we can spring off into our next step. You don't realize it, but if you start changing directions, you're sprinting, boom, changing directions, that's probably the same ground reaction force as landing from a jump. I don't know, 3 lots of 10. Maybe don't break your bin.